outside of all the quarterback talk and, trying to figure out which one of those top quarterbacks is going to go where, I believe the playmakers and the discussion about who the top playmakers are coming out in this draft has been a topic that's probably been discussed more than anything outside of those quarterbacks. But I think it generally comes down to one of four guys. Jamar Chase out of LSU, Devonta Smith out of Alabama, Jaylen Waddle out of Alabama, and Kyle Pitts, tight end / receiver out of Florida. So in this video, I want to talk about all four of these guys individually and make a case for or against them as the top playmaker coming out in the 2021 NFL draft. I also want to talk about who I believe is no doubt the number one playmaker coming out in this 2021 draft. So let's get into it. And the first guy we're going to talk about is Jamar Chase, wide receiver out of LSU. Now, the case for Jamar Chase is a really interesting one because in 2019, he was by far the best receiver in college football. And this is as a true sophomore we're talking about. Played a little bit as a freshman out there at LSU, but came into his sophomore season, stepped on the field, and was dominant from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. Really wasn't much drop off the entire season for him. He went out there, dominated against the top corners in the SEC, guys that are in the NFL right now, guys that were top picks, first round picks in the NFL this past season. So he went out there and he dominated against those guys. He has everything you want as far as ability, skill set, production, all of that stuff is there. But he opted out of this past season, and I think because of that, people have kind of forgotten about him a little bit. Now, if you know, and if you watch the film and you know what he did in 2019, then obviously for people like that, he's still on the radar. Those people haven't forgotten about him. But when we're talking about the casual fan, the casual viewer of the NFL draft, things like that, they might not really be familiar with Jamar Chase because you haven't seen him in an entire season. So it's easy to forget about a guy like Jamar Chase because you see all these new guys and all these guys that come out of nowhere. Suddenly this guy is the best receiver in the draft. Suddenly this guy is the best playmaker in the draft. So a combination of new guys popping up, a combination of just not having eyes on Jamar Chase this past season are things that I think can really go against him. But the skill set is there, the production is there. He did it at LSU. He did it against top competition in the SEC. And I think he has the ability to be one of the top 8 to 10 receivers in the NFL throughout a majority of his career. I think he's that good. So we'll see what happens. But Jamar Chase, excellent receiver. And based on what he's done, you could easily make a case for him as the top playmaker coming out in this draft. Now, next guy I want to talk about is Devonta Smith. And we all know about Devonta Smith and what he was able to go out there and do this past season. Now, if you think Jamar Chase had a spectacular season in 2019, take a look at Devonta Smith in 2020. He basically did the same thing as Jamar Chase. He just did it a little better, was a little bit more productive, and ended up going out there and winning the Heisman Trophy. And I believe he won the Biletnikoff Award as well. It only makes sense. If he won the Heisman Trophy, then I'm pretty sure he won the Biletnikoff. I'd have to double check, but I'm pretty sure he did. So Devonta Smith is a beast. He's a monster. He's a difference maker. He has an elite skill set. He was the best receiver this past season in college football, and it wasn't even close. So, like I said, elite skill set. Elite skill set. Now, he does it a little differently than Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is a bit more physical of a player than him. He is a bit more finesse than Jamar Chase. But, man, he has elite speed. He has elite route running. He has elite hands. He does everything well. He has versatility. He returns kicks. He returns punts. He does all of that. Now, something that I don't think is a big deal, but people love to make it a big deal, is the fact that he only weighs 170 pounds. Get over it. Get over it. He ain't getting too much bigger. He's not getting too much bigger. He is what he is, and what he is good enough as far as his size. It's good enough. There have been plenty of 170 pound receivers. Don't let these people in the media lie to you and say that he can't make it at that size. He clearly can. There's a ton of players that are 175, 180 pounds, and they're still able to go out there and play. Now, what I care about most is what he does as a receiver, and he does everything well as a receiver, and he probably does it better than everybody else in this draft. You can have that debate if you want to, but overall, like I said, productive, even more productive than Jamar Chase was in 2019, and we thought that was very productive. Well, Devonta Smith came out and he one-upped him, won the Heisman Trophy. When was the last time a receiver won the Heisman? What was it, 25 years ago? Desmond Howard, University of Michigan. That was a guy who didn't put up nearly the production that Devonta Smith did this past season. So when we talk about this guy, let's look at the film and realize and appreciate what he was able to go out there and do. Now, I know it's Alabama. I know they've got talent everywhere, man, but just look at the skill set. Look at how effortlessly he makes it look out there. Look at how he was able to get open against everybody this year. He absolutely dominated the national championship game. He went out there and dominated some of the top players in the country at Ohio State. Now, these guys are all 4- and 5-star recruits as well. This is one of the best programs in the country for a reason. And he went out there and he made those guys look like high schoolers. So when we talk about Devonta Smith, the skill set is there, the production is there. Hey, if you want to knock him for how big he is, you be that person. I'm not going to be that person. But when I watch him and I see what he was able to do, there's no doubt in my mind that he could end up being the top playmaker to come out in this draft. Now let's talk about Jaylen Waddle, another one of those Alabama receivers that they've just seemingly been pumping out every year. Another one of those guys coming from that program. And Jaylen Waddle is a guy that pretty much from day one he stepped on the field of Alabama, he was explosive. He was producing. He was putting up numbers. And this past season was the season that he was really supposed to break out. It was going to be him and Devonta Smith, obviously, but I think a lot of people viewed him as the top guy for Alabama. I didn't view him that way. I always thought Devonta Smith was the better guy based on what Devonta Smith did last season. I thought he was next to Judy. He was the next best guy. Thought he was better than Henry Ruggs. Thought he was better than Waddle. But, that's a debate for another day. Don't want to get into that too much right now. But Jaylen Waddle started the season tremendously. He did an excellent job out there for those first few games, and he was really putting that skill set that he has on display, dominating. But unfortunately, he got hurt. Ended up breaking his ankle. Didn't come back into the national championship game, and that was a game where he played in, but he was limited. Made a couple plays, but pretty much limited, and I don't even think he finished the game. But Jaylen Waddle, probably the most explosive player in the draft. And that's huge praise because his teammate, Devonta Smith, I think very highly of him. And I think he's up there in that conversation. But Jaylen Waddle was just a little bit different. Now, like I say, so explosive. I believe this past season he was averaging 19, 20 yards per reception. And that's tremendous, man. That is really dominant. That is next level type stuff right there. And when you watch him on film, he stands out. He runs past guys. He goes up and he gets the ball, attacks the ball well in the air. You can get the ball to him out on screens and stuff, and he can make guys miss in the open field. And like I said, I think he's the most explosive player in the country. I also think he's probably the most versatile player in the country. You can line that guy up in the slot, he'll get open. You can line him up out wide, he'll get open. You can put him in the backfield. He can run certain schemes and be effective there. You can put that guy in motion. You can have him go return kicks and punts for you, and he'd be effective at all of that. The only issue with Jaylen Waddle is first the injury. Got injured, unfortunately. Now, I don't think it's anything that's going to hurt him significantly throughout his career. I believe he broke his ankle, and I mean, if he heals that up and does what he has to do in that area, then I think he'll be fine. But also, and this is me personally, how I feel about Jaylen Waddle. When was he ever the number one guy at Alabama? Now, he was starting to come on this season as that guy, but you could easily make an argument that Devonta Smith was that guy as well. Last season, he did well, but he's the fourth guy. Jerry Jeudy, Devonta Smith, Henry Ruggs, those guys were all ahead of him. So if there is a knock on Jaylen Waddle, I think that would probably be the closest you could come to having a knock on him. Just the fact that he's never been the number one guy. So can he be that guy in the NFL if he really wasn't even that guy in college? It's definitely something that's worth discussing. But overall, just the skill set, the production when he was healthy out there on the field, undeniable. And most importantly, the versatility. The things that he can do on the field, he's a true versatile player, a true Swiss Army knife. He can really impact your offense in a plethora of different ways. I know this comparison has been overused probably, but he's really a Tyreek Hill type of player, and I don't think there's any doubt about it. So if he goes to the right team in the right situation and he's utilized the correct way, man, he could be the best receiver in the league. I don't think there's any question about it. He's that dynamic as a weapon. The last guy I want to talk about is Kyle Pitts, and if you ask me, I think most of the time when we talk about these playmakers and who the top guy is, I'd say most people out there probably have this guy as that guy. People see that he's a 6'4", 6'5", whatever he is, 240-pound tight end that can run a little bit, that can catch the ball well, that can do some things athletically, and you don't see that often. I think people look at that and they really get blown away when we see those types of players out there. Kyle Pitts has a tremendous combination of athleticism and size. He's a tight end that can play some receiver, he can go out there wide and play receiver and give you that. He also can create mismatches depending on the situation and depending on what's going on out there. He can always be a mismatch. If we put him out wide, then obviously he's going to be a mismatch size-wise against every corner in the NFL, regardless of who you throw out there. There's no 6'5", 6'6" corners that'll win 240 pounds. It's just not a thing that's going to ever happen. So he's going to have natural mismatches in that regard. He has really good straight line speed, has a really good catch radius. I mean, he's the type of guy that's going to go up on anybody and not be afraid to do it. So you see all of those types of things on film when you watch Kyle Pitts. But if you ask me, at the end of the day, there is a reason that Kyle Pitts was not a wide receiver full time, because he's not a receiver. He is a really skilled, really talented tight end. But I think when you compare him to the top guys, Devonta Smith, Jaylen Waddle, Jamar Chase, when you compare him to those guys, and those are the guys that I consider top-level elite prospects at receiver coming out. When you compare Kyle Pitts as a receiver to Jamar Chase as a receiver or Devonta Smith as a receiver, it's not close. And I don't think it's the fact that Kyle Pitts can't do some of those things. I don't think he does it consistently enough. I damn sure don't think he does it better than those other guys. So when we talk about him as being the top playmaker, as the top receiver coming out, you can't do that because you got three other guys that are better doing it than he is. Also, the fact that he's not an elite run blocker, which matters for tight ends. When you watch Rob Gronkowski, when you watch George Kittle, those guys are considered versatile weapons as well. I've heard that thrown around for Kyle Pitts. I'm going to get into that really quickly. But George Kittle, Rob Gronkowski, those are versatile weapons. Why? Because they can be dominant in the run game. Rob Gronkowski is essentially a sixth offensive lineman. When he's out there on the line of scrimmage, he is a sixth offensive lineman. He can handle defensive linemen by himself as a blocker. Can Kyle Pitts do that? No way. When you look at George Kittle blocks his ass off as well on the line of scrimmage, can dominate defensive ends, can dominate defensive linemen by himself. He also can be in the backfield. We also can move him around, get him in motion, hand the ball to him, let him go out in space and make plays. Do I see evidence of Kyle Pitts doing that? Not necessarily. Not like those guys, not like Gronk, not like Kittle. So when people talk about him as a versatile weapon, as the most versatile player in this draft, I just don't see it. When we talk about versatile weapons, what makes Kyle Pitts more versatile than Jaylen Waddle outside of his size? And I don't even think that's something that makes you versatile. That's just something that you are. You're a big guy. That has nothing to do with the versatility that you're going to bring to the game. He's not more versatile than Devonta Smith. He's not more versatile than Jaylen Waddle. I can do a lot more with those guys that are faster, that are better athletes, that naturally play receiver and naturally have done those things. I could do more with those guys than I would be able to with Kyle Pitts. Now, he's a good receiver. He can get open against DBs. He can go out there and run past linebackers. I'm not saying that, but he doesn't do it better than these other three guys. And then when we talk about the other aspect of his game, which he's going to have to do, he's going to have to block. If he wants to be considered a good tight end, he's going to have to block. He doesn't even do that at an elite level, and I'd say he's pretty average as a blocker. So I think the value with Kyle Pitts is more so going to be about what you do with him and where he goes. Now, I've seen him mocked to a team like Cincinnati Bengals. And I'm not saying that would be a terrible pick, but we also have to consider the situation he's going into. Cincinnati has two pretty good young receivers. Tyler Boyd is a veteran now. He's been productive throughout his career, and he's established himself as a number one guy. You got T. Higgins going into his second year after a really promising rookie season, and he was a guy that I thought was one of the top 3 receivers coming out last year. So if Kyle Pitts were to go to a situation in Cincinnati, he automatically becomes your third guy. No doubt. He's your third option at receiver, number 2 option at best. And if I'm the guy making that decision or in charge of making that decision, I'm not going to waste a top 5 pick on the tight end who's going to come in and be my number 3 option or number 2 option at best. I want that guy to be the number 1 option, and I want to get him the ball like Travis Kelce is getting it out in Kansas City. If I'm not getting that guy 70 to 100 catches per season on a consistent basis, if I can't rely on that guy consistently as a wide receiver threat or wide receiver type threat, if I can't rely on that and get that out of him and utilize him that way, then I'm not going to draft him number 4 when I got other guys that play receiver naturally and have been playing receiver and have been dominating for years. I have those guys sitting on the board. So I'm not going to pass those guys up that are more dynamic, more natural receivers for a guy that might be able to play receiver, might be able to be a number 1 receiver, but has never done it full time. A guy that can block. He's pretty average in that area, but he's not dominant enough for me to just be like, all right, I'm going to put him on the line and let him go block defensive linemen one-on-one, or put him in the backfield and let him play some fullback. He's not that guy from what I've seen. And if I were making those decisions, I would be very careful about taking Kyle Pitts in the top 5 or in the top 10 for that matter. It really is going to come down to need and how you're going to utilize them. When you look at some of the top tight ends in the league, those guys get the ball. Travis Kelce, he's arguably Kansas City's number 1 receiver. You can have that debate about him or Tyreek Hill. You got guys like Darren Waller, who is the number 1 guy out in Las Vegas for the Raiders. You know, Zach Ertz, guys like that. Guys that are the undisputed number 1 guy on that team. You have to utilize them that way. And I just think the Kyle Pitts situation, he has to go to a situation like that to utilize the best part of his game, which is obviously to be a receiver, a big mismatch type of threat at receiver. So if you're not doing that, it's going to be really tough, in my opinion, to justify taking him super high in the draft. And I'm talking about within the top 10, unless you're a team that really needs that at that position. So I think this is close between 2 guys, but if I had to make a decision and pick who I think the top playmaker is coming out in this draft, then I'd have to go with Jamar Chase. Devonta Smith would be a close second, and I love Devonta Smith. I love what he's able to go out there and give you, and this is a really, really tight decision that I had to make, but Jamar Chase just does it for me. The first time I watched him on film, fell in love with him. Didn't have to play a single down this year for me to realize how special of a talent he is. Like I said before, he just recently had his pro day, and he looked smooth as butter out there. The kid looks like he hasn't missed a beat, and I just think if you're looking for a dynamic player, a guy that can step on the field day one and give you everything you need as a weapon, as a playmaker, as a receiver, then that guy is Jamar Chase. We saw it last year with his former teammate. We saw how Justin Jefferson was able to go out there and dominate as a rookie, and he's arguably a top 5 receiver in the league right now. Well, when they were both on the field together, Jamar Chase was the guy. So if you look at it like that, then I don't think there's really any question about who the top guy is. And all of these guys are great players. All of these guys will be good in the NFL. All of these guys give you something different, but they all can play at the end of the day, and they've proven that on the field. But if I had to make that decision and I was a team that needed a playmaker and I needed a guy that can step in right away and produce for me, then I'm going to take Jamar Chase, and I'm not going to think twice about it.